All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead video for today after the huge news this week. If you still haven't heard of the Walking Dead comic book series ending in this one, we're going to go over sort of a Q&A format, but I wanted to go through your guys' comments with you and just get a sense of where the fan base is at now that the Walking Dead comic book series has ended. Alright, and possible spoiler warning if you have not read The Walking Dead up to the end, depending on where the conversation goes with regards to your guys' responses and reactions to the finale, whether or not it's a satisfying end for The Walking Dead, whether or not people are disappointed and let down, whether they're angry and still sort of in shock, just kind of how you guys are feeling about the ending. I've done, review for the ending yesterday and why Robert Kirkman decided to end it. We went through the letter hacks together and sort of got an explanation for the reason why it ended at issue 193. And so we've gone through all that. All those videos are in the channel. If you guys haven't seen those, you can still watch them right now. I'll have them in the end screen videos for you. So this one is about you guys, how you guys are feeling. Gone through lots of your comments, hundreds of comments yesterday, and grabbed some pretty good ones here from you guys, sort of a little bit at random, just grabbing whichever ones that I thought were kind of cool to look through and to hear where you guys are at. I want to say for the most part, from what I've seen, most people are satisfied with the final issue. They're satisfied with the ending. A lot of people are still not satisfied with the way that Rick, spoiler warning, died in issue 191, 192. It was surprising, it was shocking, but a lot of people felt like Rick should have kind of a more epic death than just being shot in bed by this spoiled kid. So it was kind of a lackluster finish for Rick, but then afterwards, the following issue and what happened after as a result of Rick's death, I thought was satisfying, and I think we all basically agree that in the end, the ending was a happy ending. It was a satisfying ending and a lot better than a certain other series that may or may not have ended this year. And let's not compare to that, even a better ending than like something like Z Nation, which kind of got canceled this year. Actually, this was last year for Z Nation, for example. And it sort of just got canceled, and they had kind of an ending, but it was kind of like half an ending, so I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. You can still watch it. It'll probably be on Netflix eventually, so people can watch the end of Z Nation if they want to. But a lot of series wrapping up. Gotham ending, Game of Thrones ending, Z Nation ending, like just a lot of stuff that's kind of ending all at once. Compared to some of the others, I thought that the Walking Dead comic series ending was very good. I do kind of wish, in hindsight, that he would have told us ahead of time, though. If there's anything that people can be outraged about, and he kind of explained this in letter hacks that he wanted it to be a surprise that it was ending. He wanted it to be a surprise that it was over right, when it was released. And he got us, it wasn't leaked up until the day before or 2 days before, and then people found out. Before that, it wasn't really spoiled, so I wouldn't consider that to be spoiled ahead of time. It's not like it was 6 months in advance people figured this out. No, it was literally like the day before or the day of that everyone kind of figured this out. Maybe 2 days at the max or 3 at the max. That's pretty good to keep it under wraps to the very last moment. But it's, I think, out of respect for the fans, if you say it's going to be 300 issues or at least 200, or you give us the impression it's going to go for many more years, he did kind of, to say that he didn't lie about that would be a lie. He did lie about it. He did not tell the truth that, he was going to be wrapping it up before even issue 200. I was looking forward to issue 200. I thought we might get like maybe a death of Rick or something like that, but then after that you'd continue on with Carl and there'd be more story there. And there just wasn't, right? Or at least he decided not to do it. Maybe he had some ideas for other villains he could have brought in, like major threats that could challenge the Commonwealth, which could have been cool if you want to talk about a war. You could see something like a civil war for the whole United States, or like a zombie apocalypse world war or something. But maybe he felt like, we're going to do another war. I don't want that anyway, and people don't want this, people don't want that. It almost, to me, more than anything, it just feels like naturally he's probably too busy to be doing this month in, month out. He doesn't need to anymore, so he decided, okay, let's just go to that conclusion and finish it while everything is still, the getting's good. Let's wrap it up now, because another 100 issues would have been almost another 10 years. It would have been like another, 8 or 9 years, 12 issues a year, so, like was that like a 9, basically another full almost 10 years. Yeah, almost a full 10 years. Like another 9 years it would have been, which is what he said. So it wasn't like he was just off by a little bit. I mean, he was off by like a decade in terms of, it's like, how do you not account for a decade? It's kind of like, the apologetics afterwards is kind of like, okay, so I just think he just decided he was gonna wrap it up here, especially the princess stuff. For me, when I look at that, and Mercer and some of the other new characters, I didn't get the sense when he brought in those characters he was going to end it. Now, he can be apologetic and say, well, that's the same reason why he did the covers, was because he didn't want people to know. But I think in reality, it's kind of like, yeah, that's partially true, but the other part of that is that he wasn't sure if he was going to go on further. He probably thought he was, but then he eventually decided here that, let's just wrap it up, whatever. I don't need to keep doing this every month, because it must be something every month to manage the whole thing, to write everything every month, and it might be just something that's like, at this point in his career and how busy he is with everything he's got going on, TV series and other comics he's doing, Die, and all this other stuff, he probably wants to do some new projects and this kind of thing. Invincible's ended now, so yeah. But so satisfying. So, I mean, in terms of the story, I think it is. I think most of us wanted to see maybe a little bit more time with Carl, right? Before, like after what happened to Rick. Maybe had seen some more cool stuff with Carl. Of course, Negan's still out there somewhere, so I would not be shocked in the future if we see some kind of Negan-related spin-off or Negan-related Walking Dead series, like a Here's Negan, monthly type thing if he wants to do it. We'll have to see what he decides and what he has the gumption to do, because at this point, it's not like he needs to do any of this. He could just drop Walking Dead forever. It's done now. It's over. It's finished, and never do anything with the universe ever again, if that's what he wants to do. I just think, like, man, so much potential there, and it's kind of all wrapped up now. But yeah, it's kind of sad it didn't go for another 100 issues, because I think it could have been really good if it focused around Carl and we got to see that. And it still could have been Rick's story, because Carl carries from Rick, right? So here's the different comments we got from you guys about how you're feeling about the ending. In the Groove says, rubbish ending. Trev, you flipped over Game of Thrones ending. At least Game of Thrones had a viable ending. Big question not covered. When people die, they still turn into the Walking Dead. So how can they defeat the Walking Dead? It is ongoing, surely. He just got fed up, period. So that's what he said. So I'm not going to disagree with you that maybe he got fed up and decided he was just going to end it. Maybe he really did plan on doing it for another, 5 to 10 years. Maybe the expectations of doing it month to month just became really, and he probably won't admit it, right? Because you wouldn't do that. But it's probably something to where, like, he just didn't know how to satisfy the fans anymore. And when Dwight was killed off, he didn't get maybe those big response reactions that he kind of wanted. And the TV series always gets, like pretty big reactions for whoever they kill off or almost whatever they do. And so maybe he just felt like this will be his last kind of big reveal, is that, surprise, it's over. So, if that's what he wanted to do, he got it. He got one big one in the end. So that's for sure. It's just that, man, I'm not going to disagree with you in the Groove. I'm not going to say, at least for the second part, that maybe he did get a little bit fed up with the fan base and decided he just wanted to wrap it up. Or he just didn't have time because he's got, see, that's one thing about us as human beings. We add stuff on all the time. We just keep adding on and adding on and adding. We're like, oh, yeah, I can handle that. I'll take that on too. Oh, yeah, I can do that. I'll add that on too. It takes a lot of humility to say, you know what? I've got enough projects going right now. I'm not going to start this comic, or I'm not going to do that, because I have to make sure that this is quality, and I have to make sure that every month I'm putting in the same amount of hours to think through new villains and think through new story arcs and do all this stuff that's required, and not get writer's block in a dot connector there between Commonwealth's introduction and what we saw. We only saw a little bit of the Commonwealth. Like, it wasn't like it was like this. They came in and everything, and it was introduction. See, that's where I got to go to the point where I'm like, I think he did kind of decide to end it earlier, because when you look at Pamela Milton being introduced and Lance and some of the other characters like that, it just felt like he was bringing in new stuff for the Commonwealth. He was still building new stuff. And just to see it end like this, I feel like there was some kind of change. Again, he's not going to admit it, but I personally will always believe that there was some, like, he could have done it a lot longer, and he probably thought at one point he would want to. And then as time went on, he just decided he just didn't want to. So he decided, let's just let's just wrap it up here. It's not, it's not as good as maybe it once was, or it's not working the same way. So let's just go to that final dot connector and kill Rick off in bed with Sebastian, and then have Sebastian be punished, lawfully or thrown in jail forever, and then have it go right to Carl and have that be the final minute now. I really do feel like he probably, another compendium or two, issue 200 at least, but we didn't get there. He decided to pull the trigger now, I guess. Well, he would have decided this months ago, or like maybe a year or 2 years ago. At some point he decided, and he didn't tell us at all. But for my reaction over flipping over the Game of Thrones ending, I said a long time ago that this was the kind of ending I want, that I wanted to see an ending where we followed Rick for a reason. We followed Rick so that he would become basically the savior of humanity, and that the group that we follow, the survivors, means something more than just trying to survive. They actually restart civilization and win in the zombie apocalypse. And that's what we saw. So obviously, my favorite ending that I've said over the years that I kind of want to see is what we actually did get to see, and we got to see Carl survive. It wasn't like Carl was killed off or anything like that. So it was an ending that I wanted ahead of time, and basically he gave it to us in his own way. I didn't, obviously think about Andrea and some of these other characters that he would bring in, and didn't know that Rick would die like that. And, obviously we didn't know Commonwealth and how everything was going to shake down, and we got to see it. But I was happy to see a happy ending for everybody. I was happy to see them basically win. And so that's why I didn't flip over this ending. I was shocked and kind of flipped over, like, why didn't you tell us? You should have told us ahead of time, because, I had planned on reviewing the Walking Dead comics for many more years to come. I was thinking, like, well, even if the TV show ends, the comics will probably be around for another 10 years or 8 or 9 years or whatever, and we can at least do that every month. And that's not the case now. The comics are over. It's done. So the TV series is actually going to be on longer than the comics. It's totally unexpected. And whoever predicted that, there was somebody who messaged me who said, like, Trev, I told you the TV show would last longer than the comics. I'm like, I got to say you're right, man. I didn't see that. I didn't see the TV series being on longer than the comics. You ended up being right. I just never thought that would happen. Now, granted, the Walking Dead comics started earlier, but when I'm saying like 16 years or 15 years or whatever, so we don't know if the TV series is going to get to year 17, season 17. We'll have to see if it does. Maybe it won't. But I just would thought that when the TV series eventually did end, if it was gonna, that the comics would still be released on a monthly thing, because he acted like it was no big deal for him to just do the comics, give it to Charlie. Charlie does his deal, and then we get a new issue each month, and it's no big deal, right? That's kind of the way. That was the impression that I got. That it was easy for him to do, and that he wanted to do it, and that he had some good ideas for long term, and that's what he kind of sold us on, and it ended up to not be true. So I think more than anything, that's what the fan base is probably most upset about, is that they were kind of lied to, or they were led to believe that it would last, over 200 or 300 issues. That's pretty much what he said, and even if it was years ago and things do change, or if he just, like in the letter hacks where he said he just thought it would and it just didn't, it's kind of like a half read. It's kind of like, okay, fine. But, if you're going to say, like, that you're going to do something for a certain amount of time, usually you should probably hold to it. Like, if you say I'm going to do 200 push-ups, or I'm, in the next couple, like, I'm going to do, I don't know. I mean, there's situations where you can't always do exactly what you say. But generally, if you say that you're going to do something a certain amount of times, you should at least be within the ballpark. You should at least be within 100 releases, right? It's kind of like AMC saying they're going to go to season 20, and all of a sudden season 11 is the last season or something. You see what I'm saying, guys? Like, it should be, or season 9 ended up being the last season. Like, that's kind of how far off it was. It's like 100 issues off. He said 300, and it was like, it wasn't even 200. It wasn't even close. So, big question not covered. You're right. When people die, they still should turn in The Walking Dead. That's true. So they can never really totally, completely annihilate the threat, and there are still probably zombies out there outside the safe zone, but the sense that we get from the final issue is it ain't a big deal. Like, it's not a big deal for them. They have a procedure in place. Maybe Sheriff Kapoor comes out and just shoots them down or whatever, and people know what to do, or they all run away and they get people and they come in, and casualties as a result of the dead is just like a very rare thing. They've got it down to a science now. So, but I hear your comments, and So that was in the groove. Pariah Sojourner said, fed up, Kirkman made his millions and decided to walk away. I bet that in a couple of years, he'll get bored and begin writing the Walking Dead comic again, or farm it out for someone else to do. Yeah, he's a contrarian in the truest sense of the word, right? So as we did with the finale here, he likes to do things that no one else does for the sake of doing it. That's why he created it. Comes in terms of disagreeability. He's an entrepreneur too, even if he doesn't want to say a comic book artist. He's an entrepreneur also. There's kind of a part of being an entrepreneur is sort of being disagreeable. When you kind of go, you're contrarian, you go against what other people do. So other people would promote it as the end of The Walking Dead. There'd be posters, there'd be billboards, there'd be all this stuff. The end is coming and all this stuff. And he's such a contrarian. He's like, no, don't tell anybody. Not only do I not want to hype it, I don't want to tell anyone at all. It's like what? It's such a weird thing to do. It's like, wouldn't you hype that? But not at all, man. And that's just the way he is, man. That's what he does. So, he made a lot of money, obviously, yeah, clearly, right? And decided to walk away. Well, maybe he will get bored eventually and do a Negan story or something. I'd be down for that. Or just something for Carl in between that time skip time, some kind of spin-off series or something. But again, I don't know. Peace is not all that exciting, right, for Walking Dead. It can be great for a few issues, but it's not something you're going to make, several trade volumes about or a compendium about Peace, right? It's like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know, man. It's crazy stuff, and I'm really sad that it ended here. But I'm glad that for me, at least gave us that happy ending, and it didn't end up with just everybody dying or something like that. Because there are stories like that where just everybody dies or they kill each other or something like that. It's just like, it's so bad. It ruins the whole thing, right? So I'm glad at least he didn't screw it up to the point where like he had like everyone dead at the end or something, or something like that. At least it was like a satisfying ending for the readers, I think. Greaser Bub, the original, says, the dude is filthy rich. It probably takes a ton of time. He's not young, and he has the China thing going. He probably wants to enjoy life a little. I wish him well. As long as he and AMC keep debnam carey, it's all good, right? So somehow Greaser decided to bring Alicia into the conversation. So I guess as long as Alicia's in Fear the Walking Dead, then we're okay, right? So, don't give Kimball any ideas, guys. Daniel Rodriguez says it's bullshit. Something happened for this sudden end. I'd like to hear a little bit. Well, I'm sure we will. When we get Comic-Con, we'll do lots of videos covering it. Obviously, this is a big topic that's going to be going on for months probably. I'll still be probably doing some kind of videos on this with you guys and discussing it in a few months from now. I'm at least happy that at least we got the letter hacks explanation, which is that he just, I just personally think that he had to go from like here to here, and he just didn't have the time. Probably the time is the biggest thing, or the energy after 16 years to keep going further and going further and going further like he thought he was gonna, and he just maybe hit a wall and he decided like, okay, none of this is really good enough to live up to what The Walking Dead is, so let me just wrap it up in a great way now, rather than people being disappointed and it fizzling out entirely and saturation. Something like this is probably why. The Shapely said, probably a 20-year time skip, I'd say. Carl goes from like 15 to mid-30s. And that's probably true. I'd say maybe mid-30s to late 30s, something like that. It's kind of cool how Carl sort of looks like he's around Rick's age, somewhere close at least. He looks somewhat like Rick. It's kind of neat when it all ends, and he still has the same kind of personality as he did when he was younger. And I like that. But he's rather tame compared to how he could have. It would have been totally within character for him to make Carl Negan 2.0 and just a villain type character and just go after Sebastian and Lucille him and just go on some kind of rampage and be outcast or something. And oh man, there's a lot of stuff that could have been done here, but again, he just decided like, okay, let's just go from here to here and it'll be nice and happy and everybody will be, there could have been a lot of different things he could have done with it. And I think he was building to doing some different stuff. And it does feel like a little bit of a sudden kind of change, right? To go right from there to there, it's like, whoa, 20-year time skip is like you couldn't think of anything to do in the meantime, or you just didn't want to, So Zelda Fast says, so Kirkman, whatever you write in the future, I'll pass. Thanks for killing the dream. So this Zelda Faz is really disappointed. And again, you can't fault him for that, or I can't fault any of you guys if you're very disappointed with how this ending played out. Maybe not the story. Most people are not complaining about the story, but it's the fact that we were told and we had ideas that it'd be another 100 issues or something crazy like that, or at least 10 or 20 or 30 or 40, something like that. At least 200, and we never saw it. So, but again, life gets in the way sometimes, and people get pulled in different directions, and maybe it doesn't make sense anymore for him to keep pumping out issues every month. It's like, wrap it up well, wrap it up correctly, and then he can work on Invincible movie or whatever other stuff he's got to be involved with, because we don't know. I mean, the amount of projects the guy has is crazy, and we don't know, how much else he has to do. Maybe it's not feasible anymore. I don't know. Tycho Brenton says, better ending than Game of Thrones. So, yeah, that's right. I got to agree with you there. Not everybody agrees. Some people like the Game of Thrones ending better, and that's fine too. We're all entitled to our opinion. I like this type ending way more than the Game of Thrones type ending. Mrs. A. Naturel says, what the hell just happened? Why is The Walking Dead canceling? And did Trev catch a seizure? Freak out at the beginning? Yeah, I did that. That was in the video. One more after this one. The video where I kind of had reacted to the cancellation news or the ending news, because it floored me, man. When I read it, I was like, shut up. Someone commented to me. I was like, shut up. That's bullshit. It's not ending. And then I looked it up and I started seeing this. I'm like, this is a thing? It's ending tomorrow? What? I was like, so I did. I just turned the camera on and started making a bunch of noises, because that's how my brain felt at that time. I just felt totally discombobulated and just like, what is going on here? Because it's not what we were told. It just isn't. So it's okay, but at least it wasn't a total screw up or something, and everybody didn't die, or Rick didn't have to kill Carl or something. I don't know, something stupid, crazy like that. It was at least a happy ending for us, I guess, in some ways. I am sad with the way Rick went out, though, in the end. Now that it's over, I can say, because it wasn't really building to anything else in that timeline. It was building to the future, which we got to see. But it's like, wow, man. Yeah, just wow. I expected to see, I don't know, something else after that. I thought Carl could have at least led one compendium or two, maybe, after Rick was gone. And it still could have been Rick's story, because that's Rick's son carrying the torch after him. But that's not what we saw. The Dummy says, I always said The Walking Dead will go for 12 seasons, so The Walking Dead will end in season 12. So, hey, at this point, after kind of the way that the comic book series was like guaranteed to us, or at least it felt like he was guaranteeing, it'd be like almost 300 issues. I'm not going to fault anybody who predicts that the Walking Dead TV series will only last a few more years or something. I hope they can get over season 15 or 14. I'm happy already with how long the Walking Dead television series has gone. It's my favorite series of all time. The comics are my favorite comic series of all time. So I'm happy with both and how long they've lasted. They're better than anything else I can think of for me and what I enjoy. But, if we can get a few more seasons out of it, that's great. If we can get to season 15 and it's still on, I'll be enjoying that. And Fear as well, too. Can you guys imagine if Fear the Walking Dead got to like season 8 or 10 or something, or 9? Like, that would be crazy to see Fear get to season 7, 8, 9, or 10 or something like that. I would just be like, what? Fear got 10 seasons, like double-digit seasons for Fear? I mean, the original series, yeah, it got double-digit seasons, but could Fear get that long? Probably not. Everyone's going to say, no, Trev, it's not going to happen. So I'm not going to disagree with you guys, man. When it comes down to it, and it comes to the future, we really don't know. People say things and stuff and best intentions, but you have no idea, what's going to happen. You just really don't know. Tomorrow, everything could change. And that's kind of, in my opinion, that's what we kind of saw here from our vantage point. He can say, well, this was in the planning for years, but you didn't tell us that, and you held it back. So for us, it was blindsiding us with this thing. It was like a death in real life sometimes. Like, everything's fine, and all of a sudden you just hear about somebody who got in a car accident. It's like, oh, man, really? And they didn't, like, oh, it's brutal. It's terrible, So, it's just a comic series or a TV series, so it's not real life, so it's not as traumatic as that, but you get a little bit of that rub, that vibe, where it's like, just all of a sudden something happens, and you're like, huh? What? You go through the stages and stuff of grief and everything, it's like, wow, crazy. Anyway, that'll be it for this video today, guys. Let me know how you're feeling right now. Are you outraged by the ending and the way this whole thing played out? Were you satisfied with the story aspect of it? And Carl, are you upset about the fact that you were led to believe it'd be another like 5 or 10 years at least, or at least another 10 or 200 issues, and you didn't get that? You didn't get your 300 issues. You didn't get 250. You didn't even get 200. You got, well, still, that is a lot anyway. But are you upset that that's kind of what you were sold and you didn't get that in the end? Where are you at with this, or are you happy with the way it ended and you just think, well, eventually it would have ended up here anyway, so even if we had gone another 10 or 50 issues, it really doesn't matter because this is the overall story anyway, so we just get there faster with less releases and faster amount of time. I guess in the end, I'm just happy that I got to read The Walking Dead all the way to the end, to review it with you guys all the way to the end, to the very last issue, and that makes me proud that we were able to kind of follow the series all the way through and read it all the way to the end, because that is a long journey, and it's been really, really great with you guys. But it's not over for us. We're going to continue on further, and the TV series is still going, and there's other series like Stranger Things right now, for example, and everything. There's always new stuff coming out, so I want to keep active. I want to keep doing this with you guys. I really love doing this with you guys a lot, and I'm not ready to issue or video 193 you guys yet. I'll let you know. I promise you this. I'll let you know ahead of time how things are going if I eventually decide to finish, making videos and stuff. I'll let you know ahead of time. It won't be a 193 situation, and you can hold me to that, right? So that's it for this video, guys. We'll see you again soon for another. As always, this is Trev, and I'm saying peace later, guys. See you soon.